Hi, I'm Nancy Shanteau, and I'm here to talk to you about the Embodied Rescue Dynamic. This is an article that's in the Embodiment Journal, which is currently available on Amazon.com. And this is video number 3, so it's a continuation of the article. I'm reading now about moving from rescue to cooperation. So this section is called Ask for 100% of what you want, moving from rescue to cooperation. I sat down with a pen and paper and started writing down my needs. I want to feel loved and connected. I love my house and I want the aesthetic to be beautiful, harmonious, clean, and tidy. I want my partner and his dog to feel welcome. I want my zebra couch to stay clean and be presentable when we have guests. I want to feel happy and satisfied with our agreements. I want to feel relaxed and at ease. I want to have a say in every piece of furniture and make decisions about what stays and goes together. As I wrote the last sentence, I realized I wasn't telling myself the whole truth about what I wanted. I wanted my partner to love the house and aesthetic as much as I did, and I wanted him to let me make all the decisions. It sounded unreasonable even in my head, so I'd suppressed my desire for control and had gradually been feeling more and more unhappy about how the house looked. I had been overpowering myself internally because I didn't think I should want control, so instead I'd been giving in to my partner's requests and changes without speaking up and asking for what I'd wanted. I'd been rescuing both internally and externally, and we weren't going to come to a resolution until I admitted what I wanted to myself and to him. No wonder I had felt so conflicted. Internally, I was all knotted up. This kind of thing happens a lot. We have an idea about how to be good or right, and we impose that behavior on ourselves without examining the cost or consequences. Yet my desire for control of the aesthetics in the house wasn't good or bad, it just was. Until I asked him what he wanted, I wouldn't know how he felt about the house, the decorating style, or the furniture, and part of me was afraid to bring it up or ask because I might hear something I didn't like. He might want control also, or he might not care about the aesthetic and might not agree on standards of tidiness, cleanliness, or spaciousness. I was afraid to lose, so instead of asking for what I wanted, I had been collapsing, giving in, and feeling resigned. But it wasn't working. My irritation was becoming impatience with tinges of resentment, and I knew I was keeping secrets not just from him but also from myself. My tension was turning into a closed rigidity, and I knew I was acting less loving and more remote. If I didn't share my feelings, I would continue drifting towards loss of love and disconnection. Conversation and cooperation. How micro-interventions help us embody what we want when we negotiate agreements. We invite clients to begin a negotiation by asking for 100% of what they want. Often I see people do an internal calculus. He wants to see an action film and I want to see a feel-good family movie. I'll suggest we go see a documentary I think we'd both be interested in seeing. Under these circumstances, we begin a negotiation asking for perhaps 70% of what we want in hopes of getting it. In addition, our bodies reflect the embodied rescue dynamic. We are attempting to negotiate from desperation, and our off-center, over-forward collapse or rigidity will produce confusing mixed messages that undermine our words. Often our conversation partner doesn't know what we're thinking but knows something isn't quite right. I don't know about that documentary. I want to see the action film. I know you don't want to see it. How about that award-winning drama? If I recenter, forgive myself for getting stuck in the rescue dynamic, and ask if my partner wants to see the feel-good family movie, maybe he will just say yes. Or maybe since we are trying to find a feel-good movie, he'll suggest a comedy. Our negotiation is much more likely to result in a happier course of action if we start from each person's relaxed, centered, whole, and complete list of needs and wants. I reminded myself that I wanted the relationship to work and that my needs were dignified even if I thought I shouldn't want control. I noticed I was clenching my jaw and my anal sphincter, and my stomach felt tight and agitated. I practiced speaking my 100% list of wants and needs out loud, and noticed my voice felt forced and tight. I needed to change my shape if I wanted to invite my partner into a different agreement. If I approached him in this shape, I imagined he would interpret me as thinking I was right and he was wrong, and we'd be worse off than if I said nothing. I like to help clients find tiny changes they can make in their physical body, something small they know they can do even when triggered. A micro-intervention might be as simple as opening our hands and resting them flat on our thighs, bending our knees or flexing our toes, settling our weight back into our heels, or opening and relaxing our jaw. I stay away from suggesting changes in the torso or breath. These tend to be easier after we've made changes in the peripheral muscles and limbs. For myself, I noticed my gaze was very narrowly focused. I raised my head and opened my peripheral vision. Automatically, I took a deep breath and relaxed my sphincter. My back body began to relax and open, and I settled back into the chair. I wanted my partner to know that I was working hard on this topic because I loved him, and I wanted to find a solution that worked for both of us. As my shape shifted, I knew I was more present, receptive, and able to connect. In this relaxed body, I was more likely to speak in a way that he could hear, and also listen to him and what he wanted with an open mind and heart. I asked my partner to prepare for a negotiation about the couch. He wrote, "I want the dogs to be comfortable. I want a place to sit that's clean and inviting and nice for cuddling. I want to be able to make decisions about the house and furniture without consulting you. I want both of us to keep the house clean and tidy. I want you to be happy about the couch and the house. I want you to tell me what's wrong instead of just sighing." After listening to his 100% and sharing mine, we considered the gaps in what we wanted. I wanted to make decisions about furniture and decorating together or by myself, and he wanted to make decisions by himself. After asking some questions, I discovered that he wanted me to participate in cleaning the house more often. I agreed to make a chore list and a schedule and asked if he was going to buy furniture without consulting me, could I have a veto? He agreed. We decided to get rid of the dog couch and replace it with dog beds that took up less space and could be laundered. I agreed to let him know sooner when I was feeling uncomfortable. We planned to spend more time on the couch cuddling and less time watching television. We are both satisfied and happier with our new agreements and our relationship than we had been before we started. So I wanted to talk a little bit about negotiation because this negotiation that I'm describing in this article is a negotiation between two equals, people who are mutually agreed on being in a relationship together. Each party could leave at any time, and our power was relatively equal over the circumstances that we were in, although there was a lot of structural power differences that that definitely affected our transactions. And there's a really big difference between structural power that's out in the world, systemic structural power affecting our equal relationships, and a hierarchical difference in a power dynamic such as a boss and an employee, or a landlord and a tenant, or a teacher and a student. So hierarchical relationships where you're trying to negotiate within that context are a little bit different. We're going to handle cooperation a little differently. It's much more of a hybrid. But in this situation, for all of the differences in structural power that existed between us, we were equal in our ability to participate in the relationship. And we were considering each other as having equal rights to talk about and make decisions within the space. So inside of that context, we're really looking for people to start, for ourselves and others to start asking for 100% of what we want, and really doing the work to figure out what's the 100% and to be honest with ourselves about what that is. Sometimes people will encounter splits. There's a way that we want two things at the same time. And when we encounter splits, the best thing we can do is just to document that, to say 100% of what I want is this, and I also want this, and I understand it's contradictory, but they're both things I want. Very often our competing needs, like I didn't want to be perceived as or needing control, but I wanted the control, that kind of split, is something that we often have to reconcile internally first before we can reconcile it within an agreement with somebody else. If we try and get the need met outside of the relationship in an external negotiation outside of our interior split, what we end up doing is just trading off unmet needs. So one need gets met, the other need becomes unmet, and then we make a new agreement, the unmet need becomes met, and the old met need becomes unmet. And we just trade off back and forth, and it's very frustrating being in a negotiation with somebody who does this as a partner, because we are doing our best to try and meet their needs, but they're not saying all of their needs. They're only talking about unmet needs. So we're really trying to, as much as possible, get the whole 100% out on the table and negotiate from there. So there will be more coming. This is video 3 of a few more videos before we finish the article, and I hope this helps.